Welcome back to Norfolk Notables. I'm Anne-Marie Battistone. We're going to have a very, very interesting show today. My guest, I had heard speaking, he gave a short disquisition at the last Board of Selectmen's meeting I attended about wastewater issues and the need to for the town to install its own wastewater system down Main Street. And I asked Chris Weeder who that was, and we talked about Ernie Alix on our last Just Sayin', in which he mentioned that Ernie Alix was a very skilled craftsman. And you're going to see what he's got here today, what he's built and what he's collected. Oh, thank you so much for coming on. I'm so thrilled to have you. Another expert on mid-century Norfolk. Now, we're going to start with this. You renovated this, or you built this, or?
When I bought that at auction, it's a sturdy toy. They made them from 27 to 29. In 27, they were in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. They moved down to New Bedford the following year. Following year, they moved up to a place in Providence, which also happened to be the place, Federated Lithograph, that printed the Topps baseball cards.
Oh, I remember those.
Yeah, I was putting an addition onto that building, so as time turns around, as it is different, it becomes the same. So, here I worked on something, and I worked on a toy that was built there.
And you were the clerk of the works on a number of buildings, big buildings.
Yeah, but back then I was a superintendent.
Right.
That was before I kind of laid back a little bit and get away from the stress of being a superintendent. So when I bought this, it was all disarrayed, parts were missing, the boom was busted, there was no wheels on it, no lights, no hood, no brass work, no nothing. And as you can see, it says Town of Norfolk, which Norfolk never owned one.
You painted this on.
I had a professional person do it. This type of boom truck was not a ladder truck. These were used in larger cities. The hose ran up to that nozzle, and they would control the nozzle in order to do their firefighting. So I enjoy taking stuff that is like this and bringing them back to life, saving them as it would be. But to buy any of this stuff that is in pristine condition, you're talking telephone numbers. So if you want to do it, you got to do it yourself. Let me put this down.
Now, how did you get started with all of this?
I used to build hot rods and motorcycles.
Oh my God. So that'll be for another time.
Right. And I don't need a chain fall on these. And I'm getting older.
What? I understand. What is that?
A chain fall?
Yes.
That's with a chain, up with a hoist. Yes. Well, you need that with the hot rods. They're so heavy.
Oh, okay.
This stuff I can pick up, no problem. So this was kind of a catch-22. I could find pictures of the old paddy wagons that MCI Norfolk used to transport prisoners from Dedham Courthouse back down to the prisons. And all I could find was photos that were black and white. So I had to go through a lot of different books and see what was the colors used at this time. And this is kind of an army drab type of color. If you look, you probably can't see. If you look real close, there's a skeleton head carved on this that I did with a micro carving. I don't know.
Turn it this way, because it looks like you have like a cloth seat in there.
Oh, those are leather seats.
Oh, they're leather.
Yeah.
Now, where's the skull?
On the top of the shift knob.
I do see it.
And
so you made this from scratch?
Yeah, actually
Lord.
The wheels are made from a sliced off piece of pipe, 2 inches wide. The spokes are made from skewers that you would skewer meat with.
Oh.
And
stained.
Yeah, and then you take rubber from the old fan belts, discarded fan belts, and marry it in, and away we go. You make up templates all the time. Make everything first out of paper.
Right.
Glue. You put them all together.
Yes.
Everything else, then cut them back out again. There's even on the back firewall inside here that I don't think anybody can see. There's seating, but there's also graffiti that the prisoners would
Ernie
have
of
put
Norfolk.
in. Yeah.
And now, so did you use a screen? You used a screen for the screens.
Yeah, this is real old type screening. You can't
Yes,
find
yeah,
those
no, right.
squares anymore.
Now, and what does this little thing do? Does this open anything?
No, the old vehicles didn't
Right.
have electric starters.
Right,
You
right.
had to get out and crank them. So that would be the crank in the front.
And this would have been the vacuum, like a vacuum tube?
No, actually,
Not a vacuum tube.
these lights ran on gas.
Oh, okay, of course, right. But so this would have been like a little flame in there
Yes.
on this little rod.
Right.
And what's the little symbol here?
That's the symbol of Mack Trucking Company. This is what they call a C-Mac. See how it's a C?
Yes. And this now, and underneath you've got some sort of a chain.
Yeah, they were all chain drive back then.
Oh my God.
Of course, this is from
My-
a bicycle chain. Then I sent it out and I had it pinstriped after I had painted it up. And everything is metal except for your rubber
So this
tires.
is sheet metal.
Yeah, it's all sheet metal. It's all.
Now, what kind of equipment do you have at home to create this?
I have different benders and I got MIG welders and stick welders and a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But a lot of it is just you have to do it by hand.
It's just it's exquisite. It really is something. It really is. And leather, and so you you glued leather in there for the seat.
Right.
Of
And
course,
this is where the radiator is on these particular type. It's not in the front like a normal vehicle.
And so this painting you had done.
I did all the painting.
Oh.
Just the pinstriping, the gold stripes.
Okay.
I had a professional do
Yes,
that.
right.
That's one thing I can't do.
Well, it's yeah. I mean, you'd need tape, and you'd need.
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
then
you'd
that's
have
a
to-
specialty thing to do
Absolutely.
that. But it's MCI Norfolk. As you'll see later when we get to the map, where the prison is now in 1888, that was called, let me get back to my notes, it was called the Honey Pot.
What was that?
I don't know. That's what's on the map in big letters. It says Honey Pot.
So we're going to see that in a minute.
Yeah, when we get to the maps and get to
The
different stuff.
location of the present prison was referred to as the Honey Pot.
The Waldorf Astoria that's on Route 1A, Walpole Prison,
Right.
Cedar Junction.
Right.
Yeah.
And that originally was called the Honey Pot.
Yeah, that area.
Oh, the area. The name.
Yeah, that whole area, there was nothing there.
Somebody must have been, maybe some a beekeeper was there, or a.
Well, the honey pot was something else. Honey pots were also chamber pots.
Oh. So, so it truly is a mystery. What the?
Let me put this on the floor too.
Yeah. Can you?
We seem to be rolling a little bit.
There he goes.
Now this one I did, again, those three were all done in a little reverence to the town, people passing past. Now this one here is
Another C-Mac, right? The C and the.
that's a C-Mac, right. And Wakovich, better known as Yucca, who owned Colin Waite Junkyard in town here, was also a policeman.
Oh, I've heard Paul mention him.
Yeah. Well, he had the Happy Hooker was the name on his wrecker. Now, Cribby, who had a junkyard down where Paul Roach is now,
Okay.
there was this wrecker like this that I saw when I was about 16 years old. This portion of it was built like a battleship. It was built with sheets of steel on the wrecker that was down at Paul's, riveted. And I was always mesmerized by that. It was just so incredibly strong and old type. So I did a replica of it. And,
Again from scratch.
Yeah, everything's from scratch here. And now this one here.
This is almost like jeweler's work, almost.
It gets there. And you can see this one, it says Mac.
Yes.
And I made the gears so it actually works.
Will it?
Yeah, you can turn the gears and move the hook.
Oh, there it goes.
It's a cable.
Yeah.
Cables don't like to move too easily.
There it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Astonishing.
Now this one's a little bit out of the same realm.
But you did not make this one.
No. Now this is from about 1890. When I bought it, one of the wheels, the spokes were missing. And the whipple tree was missing through the center. Those of you that are familiar with a farm will know what a whipple tree is.
And that's where they attach the oxen, or?
Yeah.
And that the yoke is over their neck.
Right. This did have a person sitting here with reins, but to find these little cast iron people in a seating position is very, very difficult. But I had, it's still got like 75% of its original paint.
Have you ever had this valued?
I have somewhat, but never nothing on paper or anything like that. It's only worth to the person that really wants it.
Well, that's like everything, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
people say, well, I can sell it this for that and that the other.
Right.
You have to find the buyer.
Yeah, what's ruined a lot of this stuff was some of these TV shows where they put ridiculous prices on stuff and people think, oh, I'm going to buy this stuff and I'm going to be a millionaire reselling, but it ain't that way.
Why does this have a little split in here? Is it
Well,
because
it's
it would have been too heavy?
Yeah, it's cast iron. And in order to make cast iron, this is supposed to be a tree.
Right.
So in order to make stuff with cast iron, like these have little screws. You can tell the Japanese ones from the early ones, because the early ones have screws with a straight slot in them. All the later stuff has Phillips screws in them. And some of the early stuff that I do, I only have a few of the screws. The early screws were made with off-centered slots because they were made by hand. They had no precision.
Then didn't that make it a problem to accurately tighten it and loosen it if it was off center?
They had no choice back then. They had no other way of making stuff.
But you're talking about like a millimeter off. You're just talking about
enough so that it's instead of being dead center at 50%, it was probably at 30%.
Oh, real? Oh.
Yeah.
And there's no example of that here. These are all
the regular screws.
Yes.
Yeah. I only have a couple of them.
So but you've done nothing to this yourself?
Yes.
Oh, you did? Oh.
One of these wheels.
Oh, the wheels, that's right.
Was missing all the spokes.
Now, where did you get these spokes from?
I had to make them. And
they're from iron?
Yeah.
Now, you didn't use sheet iron for this?
No.
Did you cast this?
Yeah.
And you have on a facility to make cast?
I don't really have the facility, but I used a ladle that a plumber would use, and I used my torch, acetylene torch, and I bought a couple of containers of silly putty. You know, the stuff the kids play with?
Yeah.
You just take that stuff, and it's great for casting.
Oh.
So I just poured it in.
Now, so you used one of these set of wheels to make the impression.
Right.
But when you put in, so how did you melt the iron? I mean, how did you?
With an acetylene torch.
Oh my God! So and then doesn't that just melt everything away and you lose the form? You lose the shape.
No. That's the idea of having something made out of the silly putty stays there. It burns as you're putting stuff into it.
Yeah, but it stays long enough for it to cool down and retain its shape.
Yeah.
Huh. Because there's also a type you probably know about that's called a lost wax.
Yes.
And also when they did the bronze, the hollow bronze figurines that you see in the museums, that was all done, I think, with they had wood supports and they had, I guess they were using wax or clay maybe.
Yeah. When I restore those, I cheat. I use lead, then I carve the lead. And then I use a paint to match it up because it's almost impossible to do that without a real foundry, you know.
Now, what you just mentioned. Now, what are those projects?
Oh, I did. I got so many projects I did that. One was a statue this high, and there was 2 archangels, women.
That you bought, or did somebody bring it to fighting? Okay.
Yeah, I paid $3 for it. And it only had one arm. So I made the other arms. And I put weapons in their hands instead of Bibles.
And where is that now?
That went down the line. I pass along a lot of the stuff that I make.
Give
you
it to
know?
people and...
Yeah, well, for money, I'll give it to
Yeah,
them.
yeah. My goodness, that must have been... Do you have a picture of that?
Yeah, I've got...
somewhere?
Yeah, we
that
can
must
bring it
be
up.
beautiful. Where'd you find that piece?
Up at one of the flea markets. I have pictures of it in, let's see, I got one of my catalogs. I can bring in some pictures that we can scan for next time.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I did is at one of the auction houses, they had a bronze eagle. And the eagle had 4-foot wingspan. And it was like this,
Yep.
coming down
Yep.
onto a nest with 3 goslings in it.
Yes.
And where it landed on the branch was very weak, and it snapped off. So I had taken that, and I had used a chain fall there to hold the eagle in the air to get it down and get it and braze it to what the brass that was already there, and fix that all up. That came with a slip from the original maker of it of $36,000.
And what did you pay for it?
I didn't. I did it for an auction house.
Oh, you did? Oh, I see.
I fixed it up for
Now,
them.
how'd they find out about you?
I go to their auctions.
And they've talked to you and they realized that you would be able
Oh,
to...
they see the stuff I'll bring in sometime and everything else.
Oh, goodness, my goodness. Huh.
And the person that owns it, they used to live in town here. Art Marshall was a very prominent person here in town. His wife and her husband own it now.
So this must be pretty well-paid work that you do. If you're talking about an item that's worth that kind of money, I mean, they...
Well, I do it. A lot of times I'll trade it off for something else I like to buy busted stuff at the auctions, and they know it. So I'll take a whole bunch of it, put it together. Nobody wants it, so I pick it up for a song. So that makes up for it. I'll make replica pieces for it. Some of my stuff has gone through Brimfield to those dealers, and they'll bring them to me, and I'll fix them up for them. I recently did a fire hydrant setup for the town of Sharon's museum, Fire and Police Museum.
I didn't know they had one over there.
Yeah, I didn't either. It was a stand, came up off the floor about this high, and the top of it had like the fire hydrant about like this, all fancy carved, and it was snapped off. Had 2 arms coming out. One arm facing this way had a call box for police and a light above it, a blue light. The other arm looking this way was for fire, and it had a red light on top. They had paid some massive money for it out of California, and when they shipped it, it was busted. So I have a way of welding old cast iron, and so I welded it up for them. And,
Now, how is that different from ordinary welding?
Well, when you weld cast iron, it just grabs. Regular welding will just grab to it and hang on to the piece that it hang on to, but the other piece won't hang on again. There's a lot of sand in it, and it just keep going and going and going. But when you weld it with a MIG welder, especially if you're using stainless steel wire, and there's a special...
As the flux?
No, there's no flux. You use a gas,
All right, okay.
A special gas.
What is flux silver? What?
Flux is all different colors. There's flux for soldering, there's flux for welding, and
it's some sort of metal that you put on there that makes the seal?
no, it's almost like a paste.
Oh, all right.
And some MIG welders have the flux right on the wire, or in the wire actually. And but I don't like it. I can't use it with stainless anyway, so I do most of my welding with stainless steel. So once it's welded, you never have to worry about it again. It's forever.
Now, these things that you made are stainless.
No, these are all just regular, ordinary steel that they would use to repair a car with.
All right.
I buy sheets of 20 gauge and 22 gauge steel.
Now, where do you buy that?
Over on the Brockton line, there's a company over there. They can that makes I-beams and got everything you want, from pipes this big around to this big around in steel. And
Now, we better get to the pictures. Did you want to step around and...
yeah, you want to see one more thing?
All right.
So I got bored. Always wanted a Pegasus, flying A. So we started making these. I took a picture I had actually from World War II, where they said it shows a tank, and it says, "Put this gasoline in your tank."
Oh, I remember that symbol, that iconic.
That we put in our tanks.
Yep.
And
Make the car fly.
yeah, so I had some prints blown up to this size,
Oh.
and then I put the print on a piece of wood.
Yeah.
And I carved the wood out.
Right.
Then I lay a sheet of copper over it and beat it out. And then I put my special treatment on it that makes it look like it's 100 years old.
And your special treatment, that's a secret?
Yeah, I don't think everybody wants to know.
Oh, all right. Maybe somebody, that's all right, I understand. Now, the pictures.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now this one here is an oil painting.
Guess I'll just stay seated.
Yeah. The lines they're putting in the center of town now for the new train tracks.
Oh, behind my house.
Yeah. This actually is showing the train tracks, and this is Frank Gross's house.
Boy.
Now this was done by Hamblin, who owned Hamblin, who still does, well, he's deceased, but he did it in 1976. So,
Beautifully framed. I mean, I can see from the back how.
So the more things change, the more they stay the same. This was 80 years ago. They tore up the line, and now they're out there putting the line back up again.
It's quite a beautiful. I mean, it's quite a paint, quite an oil painting.
yeah.
Somebody's had a lot of control.
Now this map came out of the Library of Congress, 1888. I don't know who took it out of the Library of Congress. That's a copy right there, but I have the original in vellum. Bought it at an auction.
Oh, in vellum. Oh.
Yeah. 2 years later, I was at an auction, and I bought the matching one that went next to it that shows Wrentham and Plainville, which wasn't Plainville at the time. Now in here, Boardman Street was called Avery Street. The running through the center of town, 115, was called Railroad Street. Now, if you went down towards Shear Street on North Street, you got down to the big farmhouse where, in fact, Paul Roach's father, and that was his farm
Yes.
before Lynn's took it over. Across the street from that house was Boar Street. It went from there over to Union Street.
BOAR or BO?
Boar, B-O-R-E.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it came out just about where Marshall Street is, and you kept going straight across. And the welding shop is just up the street, while it used to be there. And Pond Street used to come all the way from 1A, all the way up here, and used to come out right across the street from here, alongside the library, along the crypt, and the tramp house and everything else. Now, I'll tell you an interesting story about that crypt. There was a Mr. Gansett that they put in there in the 58 and 59.
You can have a seat if you want.
All right.
Yeah.
And Mr. Gansett's first name was Nara. And when we used to sit on the wall, which used to be over here across from the gas station, we would keep our Narragansett in the crypt to keep it cold in the summer.
He wasn't really named Nara. So did people go in there?
I don't know who it was ever put in, if anybody
But it's
was
always
ever
been
put
closed, right?
Oh, well.
Or are you saying that you put the beer into the...
Into the crypt. The
So
crypt is just a door. The door, you could swing it open.
Oh, you could?
Oh, there was no lock on it at that
So
time.
were there coffins in there? Or?
No, there was nothing. It was empty.
Oh, I see.
I don't know the last time that they used it, but I come from Plainville originally, and I started hanging around with people in Norfolk when King Philip started in '58, and this was a little. I mean, Norfolk was a hick town, and Plainville was even a less of a hick town. You know, and Wrentham was the big town, and Franklin was around here.
Oh.
So we started mingling with the people up here, and you know, started to get new friends. You know,
Right.
we were always in Plainville. It was almost, you know, up here, little cliques. You know,
Yes, yes, sure.
Because they weren't your classmates. They were almost like brothers and sisters. In Plainville, we had in '57 when we left there, the graduating class was 13 people, and one was a boy. He had a hell of a time.
Now, originally, the people went to high school in Walpole.
That was people from Norfolk.
And where was Rentham going to high school?
Rentham was when you drive into the center of Rentham now, there's a vacant lot. There's a parking
Oh, yes,
on your
across from the
left.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah,
It was there.
yeah. Well, we used to go up from Plainville, and you know, you'd have visiting. I was on a basketball team with the town then. Town of Plainville. I always remember when you went up there, the floor in the gymnasium pitched about a foot from the backside towards the street. And if you dropped the ball, it just went right down. And then the basket was up into where there was like a balcony. And they had to put a couple of people up there because every time you missed it, you'd go in the balcony, somebody had to throw the ball back.
Now, just one last thing, because we're just about out of time. Now, you've worked on buildings here in Norfolk, right? As the clerk,
Yeah.
and there was the library.
Well, I wasn't the clerk at the library, but the company I was with, that was one of our people that worked for the same company as I did. And I was on the permanent building committee there at that time anyway, so it kind of covered all.
And you were a superintendent for some big buildings in Boston.
Yeah. Yeah, parking garage that they're going to tear down now, I heard, and put up another high-rise right next to the old Record American building right downtown Boston.
Oh, yes, down there.
Right next to the Boston 5 is right next to it.
And you had a job down in Dorchester near Columbia Avenue.
Yeah.
Columbus Avenue,
Yeah,
I mean.
yeah, we did, the company, we did 3 high-rises just off of Washington Street, Sharman Street, and it actually worked out good. We would start the first job, and the crane would come in, and it would put up some steel and do the forms there. They would move to the next job, move to the next job. Exactly the same framework, just different buildings. They were all housing for the elderly.
Now, did you ever run in with the Black Panthers?
Yeah, they had a warrant out on me when I was doing the Grove Hall Library back in '71.
Did the police help you? I mean, was there a police
no,
Did they come out to...
They even went in one night and stole my guard dogs.
Oh, how horrible.
And it was an all concrete library, and the forms were down, and the roof was on and stuff. And
My goodness.
I caught one guy firebombing it. I mean, how stupid, you firebomb a building that's all concrete. You know, that ain't going to help.
Were you packing heat at the time?
Yes, most definitely.
I don't blame you. Good God. How heartbreaking about the just one of the dogs would go with them. You know? Well, listen, thank you I think we're about out of time, but thank you very much for watching Norfolk's Notables. My guest was Ernie Alix. He's going to come back, and we're going to talk about hot rods and maybe street rods and some unusual things that he did with a Corvette motor. So thank you very much for watching. Oh, thank you so much.
Oh.
Thank you so much for coming on.